As you know, we had to shift. I'm going to invite Reverend Katrena King, our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Strategist, to come and give her report.
Hello again, friends. My name is Reverend Katrena King. I am a young adult, Asian female clergy person, a deacon. At this time, I'll be sharing a little bit about the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Strategist report, which you can find on page 212, but you can read. I know that you've all probably taken a look at this, and so I'm just going to share a little bit first about how you can get connected with some of the work that we do. When I say we, I mean Reverend Robert Johnson, Reverend Chad Brooks. We're the strategist team, and we work together closely to get some really cool things done for the annual conference. And so first things first, the strategists are always open to hearing your ideas and needs relating to resourcing. And when we hear those things, we can go back and develop them, find them, share them with you for whatever your context is. But you can also find workshops and other topics that you might be interested in this packet, this resource that the bishop shared a second ago. And I also have specific worksheets, workshops on diversity, equity, and inclusion topics available for people that are interested. The Louisiana Conference Commission on the Status and Role of Women is being reactivated, and that involves doing monitoring work, what I'm doing today, but also involvement throughout the year, planning some special events. And so if you are interested in helping that work move forward, we're looking for volunteers, so encourage you to contact me if you want to get plugged in. And you may have heard recently about a People Like Me retreat that I hosted. In fact, it was successful. We had 20-something people in attendance, and it was very spirit-filled, thoughtful, and a joyful retreat. But I wrote a grant for this event, and there's some excess grant funds, and I'm going to retool them to have a one-day event later in the fall that can be in a different location than the Wesley Center so we can reach other folks. And if you happen to attend that retreat, you're invited back, and if you couldn't come, we invite you to join us there. But what I really want to do with my time today is we talk about building, connecting, and equipping all of you with things that might be helpful. And when you hear things like DEI, you might have some kind of adverse reaction, or maybe you feel intimidated because those three letters evoke this uncertain feeling or strong feelings. And so what I want to do today is do a very short workshop with you, and I'm going to share some questions that you can take pictures of to take with you to consider yourself and also to share with others as you understand a little bit more about the word diversity, the word equity, and the word inclusion, and why it all matters. So I'm going to give you some practical questions around diversity, equity, and inclusion. So first, we'll have diversity on the slide. And I pulled this from a conference that I spoke at, and it worked really well with about 50 folks in the room, but I'm not going to try that on this many folks. So I'm going to encourage you to take a picture of this slide, and I'll just talk you through it. When you think about diversity, I want you to think about what makes you you. And that can mean your relationship with other people, like are you a parent, a sibling, an aunt or an uncle, or somebody else to somebody? What does that look like? Also consider, what are you really good at? Is there something that you're an expert in? What do you do every day for your job? What are you passionate about? What are your hobbies? Think about that as you think about what makes you you. What are all of those little tiny pieces that make you who you are? And when we talk about diversity, I want you to think about how we can consider the range of human differences while also being able to celebrate and highlight the things that do make us unique. Because we're all made in the image of God, but that all looks a little different for each of us. So how can you reconcile all those things together? I want you to be thinking about that and maybe having a discussion with a family member, a Sunday school classmate, somebody you go to church with. Talk through what diversity means. And that all by itself can be a long conversation. But that's just the first piece of the puzzle. So the next slide is equity. And when we think about equity, I want you to consider a time when you've showed up for an event or a gathering and you did not have the tools that you needed to fully participate. What was that circumstance like, and how did you feel as a result? And a really good model for equity is this bicycle graphic, which I'm not going to show you, but I'm going to talk you through. I don't know if anyone's ever seen it, but having this bicycle event last night, I thought it was very apropos. So if you were going to go to biking with the bishop and you didn't have a bike, what would that be like? Or what if you're really tall and you need a bike that's tall? Or what if you've got short legs and you need a bike that's not so tall? Maybe you need a tricycle because you're a little wobbly. Or maybe you need training wheels in a slightly different situation. Or maybe you prefer tandem biking and you've got a buddy. We've also got motorized bicycles. There's so many options. Everybody needs a bicycle to go bicycling with the bishop. But we don't all have the same needs. We don't have all the same requirements. And while some of us can use the same thing, others use different things. And so when you think about equity, if you all have the same one thing, it doesn't always work out for everybody. So when you think about equity, what has that experience been like for you? You might have to take a little while to consider what that's like. You might have to think back to something you've experienced personally. But I do encourage you to take that question with you, to take that to your friends, and think through that. And then we've got inclusion. And here I want you to think of a time when you remember being left out. And what was that like? And how did that impact you moving forward? And for some of us, maybe the last time this happened was a long time ago. Maybe it's you were a little kid and you weren't invited to a birthday party, or you weren't invited to play in a certain game. But maybe for some of us, it's more recent. Could have been yesterday, last week, today. What does that feel like to be left out? And when you think about the way you felt, can you imagine how someone else might feel in that position? So this is just kind of a unique way to consider diversity, equity, and inclusion in a way that steps outside of the three-letter trigger that sometimes we feel when we hear these initials. And it's something that I think is necessary because it's connected to hospitality. It's connected to discipleship making. And how is this connected to fulfilling the mission of the United Methodist Church, making disciples of Jesus Christ for the transformation of the world? How can we do that if we don't consider that while we are the same, we are also different? That some people might need extra things to help them be at the table. And that sometimes people just need to feel like they're invited, they're included. And we know that that's part of what we're supposed to do, what we're doing as God's children, as members of the church, as clergy people, as lay people. We all have to do this. This is our work. It's not going to be comfortable, but maybe questions like this, little clips that you've taken pictures of, can help you get more comfortable with having conversations like this. And so I just asked you to consider it, and really consider it. And with that, amen.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions for Katrena on her report? And also, this report requires no action and will be filed with the conference secretary, and it's in your journal, again, on page 212 of your pre-conference workbook. All right, the next item of business, thank you, Katrena. The next item of business, oops, excuse me. Oh, we had a question, okay, all right. Microphone 4, identify yourself.
Deborah Keller. I'm an African-American female. I just had a personal point of privilege, and I really didn't know where this concern would fall, but I did want to just kind of express something that was been kind of burning in my spirit. So I just got to get it out. So I think I'm just going to get it out here if I may. It's nothing. Calm down. It's okay.
Okay, you have less than 3 minutes.
I just wanted to ask, sometimes things happen in our conference and in our denomination. I just want the bishop and the delegates to kind of like be aware of persons who want to keep the traditional route of worship in our sanctuaries. I'm all about DEI. I'm all about inclusion. But I don't want people that want to remain traditional to be kind of forgotten about in this whole movement to be inclusive for everybody. I want everybody to have a voice and not to be a second thought or afterthought in our effort to include everybody, because I want to include everybody. But I don't want people to feel like they're not included, trying to include everybody. Does that make sense? So that's kind of where I am, and I just see some hurting people around me, and it hurts me.
Yeah,
When other people hurt, I hurt.
understand.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to invite you to hold your applause when people have questions and even the personal points of privilege. Yeah. Did you have any response?
I was just going to thank you for sharing and being vulnerable and being willing to share that you're feeling a certain way and that you know others are feeling that way too, because that's powerful, and we have to remember that in order to welcome others, we have to be comfortable with remembering that other people are here with us too. We can't forget about those that are already with us as we're inviting others to be part of the flock, if that makes sense. So, yeah.
All right. I do not see anybody else at a microphone for questions. All right. So your report is already in the pre-conference journal, page 212, and will be filed with the conference secretary. Thank you very much. And thank you for the question, too.